gun violence is a restructuring of their organization. They have kind of, I guess, restructured some of the parts and the pieces and reporting procedures that I believe will go into effect at the end of this month, October the 30th. And so some of the changes that they've made, I know one of their desires is to kind of meet with a lot of the community organizations, such as many of you at the table. And so I know that they would like to begin building and working on their relationships with you all, because one of the things that they'll be doing is they have a set of officers that they would like to focus on community engagement. So rather than it just being one or two people, they have a whole department. And so in the incidents of, let's say that someone was dispatched to the scene and there was a shooting, they have their special investigations unit, which is brand new. And their special investigations unit will respond, and they would also have one of the other officers follow up to figure out the environmental factors that may or may not have contributed to some of the violence, to try to improve the community and get to know the community. So whether it's I mean, that could be anything. Maybe the lights are out and there's a lot of criminal activity after dark because, the city or whoever is supposed to change the lights on the street, they're not doing that. And so just them trying to get a better picture and then making sure that those things get fixed and making sure those things get changed. And of course, all of that requires collaboration and relationship with others in the community, such as the task force, for one, as well as all of you. And so I definitely want to encourage everyone who is here at the table, just to be open to that relationship building. I know that they are reaching out to people and meeting with people, and I definitely don't mind serving as a liaison. If you have any ideas that you would like to share with the police department about, what you might think is contributing, definitely let me know, and I can make sure that that information gets passed along. I'm very optimistic about some of their changes that they have. And I don't want to, since they're not here today, and I was expecting for them to be here, I don't really want to go into more detail because I didn't make the changes and I don't want to share, I guess, how I intended, what I think these changes mean to me. But just from what I've told you, I do believe that with this new unit, they will have a little bit more resources, I think, to kind of focus on some of the same issues that we are also trying to tackle. And so I will let Joe give a data update.
Thanks, Shakira.
Okay.
Let me pull up here. I hope you all can see this okay. I apologize that it's a little small. But this is an update on where we are in terms of incidents of gun violence. For those who may be on the phone or not accessible to a screen, I'll just break down what's here. there are three categories. The first is incidents where victim was hit by gunfire from January 1 to December 31. And this was comparative data from 2018 and 2019. As you can see, in regard to homicides in 2018, there were 8. In 2019, there were 11. Aggravated assaults, 2018, there were 39, and it was down to 26 in 2019. Domestic aggravated assaults were at 1 for each year. Now comparing it to the current year, where a victim was hit by gunfire January 1 to October 6th, homicides are actually down 2 from 2019, but our aggravated assaults are up significantly from 21 to 36. And actually, Officer Johnson is coming into the room now. So, so that's where one of the biggest areas of concern is from the data that the Roanoke Police Department has gathered, that increase in aggravated assaults. And then if you look down at the third category under total incidents, this comparative years, 2018, 19, and 20, you can see that, and these are total incidents, not just gunfire related. Homicides are 1 down from a year ago, and aggravated assaults, though, are already up 17 to 143, and that's total. And then domestic aggravated assaults are up 19 from a year ago, and we have 2 months, about 3 months left in the year. Officer Johnson, I believe you're with us now. We're just giving an update on the data, and I'll defer to you if you'd like to share.
Yeah, sorry, the link wasn't working. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I've kind of gotten into the tail end. So what all have you covered, Joe? My apologies.
Well, I've just covered what's on here. I just kind of gave a spoken update on where we are on incidents of gunfire and then total incidents, and was just talking about where we're seeing the most significant increase is in aggravated assaults.
Okay.
And Josh, I also touched a little bit on some of the organizational changes. I didn't really go into any deep details, and so please feel free to share as well.
Now let me pull up this next one. Josh, can you see this one?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having some real internet issues here. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so I mean, the most 2 recent ones were South Side ones, right? The 9th Street incident where a young man was shot, which was already cleared, prosecution declined, and then 17-year-old girl shot in a drive-by shooting on 9th Street in Southwest. So the first one was 9th Street Southeast, the one was 9th Street Southwest, 17-year-old girl. So those are the 2 most recent ones as far as what we're dealing with gun violence. Obviously, the map still shows higher numbers in Northwest. But, I'm sharing some of the same stuff that we shared before, anecdotally, is a lot of the parties are known to each other. A lot of the issues are cooperation, with the witnesses and victims. So still seeing the same struggles that we have in the past. It's National Night Out, was talking to some individuals about the gun violence and, what's contributing to it. And I think it's just really a totality of everything going on right now in society. And that's just my anecdotal analysis of it.
Does anyone have any questions on these data updates for Officer Johnson? I do have, I asked Chief Roman for an update on the mitigation coordinate, community mitigation coordinator. Josh, do you want to talk about that? Do you have information, or I can share what he shared with me?
You get it since you got it from the horse's mouth. I just asked for an update this morning too, and didn't get it. I know the office is ready. We interviewed more candidates, a few more candidates for the job as well, to broaden our pool. So the recommendations are on his desk. You might be able to add some more to that, Joe, and he may have talked about some restructuring of the police department too. I don't know if he shared that with you, but I'll let you speak.
Yeah, actually, Shakira talked briefly about that.
Okay.
In regards to the mitigation specialist position, there is an individual currently in the background investigation phase, and they anticipate finalizing the hiring process within the next 10 days. So the work of our rapid response working group developing that team, the timing is coming together nicely, I think.
Vice Mayor, question.
Yes.
Just a little confused on my side. Are there other candidates, or is there a final candidate that's going to get hired?
My understanding is a candidate has been selected and they're in the background.
Okay, so we're not expanding the pool.
Right.
Although those two different positions.
No, it's the same position, but this is the community mitigation specialist that was part of the Rapid Reset grant.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I thought I heard someone say that he was expanding the pool. Some other people were potentially interested in it.
Well,
I might have misheard that. Yeah.
They went through several rounds of posting the position.
Gotcha.
And Mr. Keller, I saw your request for like the Operation Street Sweeper, where we did the warrant operations with the U.S. Marshals. I'm gonna pull it up now. Joe, do you have those immediate numbers? I know you guys did that in your press conference, released the numbers.
I don't, but I can share the screen with you.
Thank you.
If you can pull those up, Josh, let me just hold on. Hey, Josh, you should be able to share from where you are.
I got it on my phone, so I'm trying to piecemeal it all together.
Okay.
Here. So the numbers that we have, it's on our Facebook page, but it's 212 warrants served. This is part of our Operation Street Sweeper, the 2-week warrant operations of the U.S. Marshals. 212 warrants served, 138 suspects apprehended, 18 firearms seized, $3,761 seized, 116 grams of heroin, 458 grams of meth, 2.7 grams of crack cocaine, and 1 vehicle seized. So it was a pretty successful operation with a lot of different partnerships. Joe, do you want me to hit on just a little bit of our reorganization for the police department?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right, so our numbers, we're down 30 officers right now. I know you guys probably seen some articles about that. We're slotted for 265. We've reduced that number to 263. We are hiring 2 new analysts to help us kind of strategically place resources where we need to be. That's going to be a huge help for us in being able to break down the data and be on top of this kind of thing. We are pulling some people off of patrol for numbers, and we're going to be organizing a new gang detective unit with a sergeant. There will also, our violence suppression team will then move into investigations and support our HIDA, which is our drug unit, as well as our task force officers with the U.S. Marshals, with the DA, FBI, and ATF. So it's hoping to streamline communication. A lot of our people and folks are working on the same things, and so getting them over to investigations will hopefully help streamline that. And then obviously the community mitigation and volunteer coordinator will be part of that moving forward. So a little bit of reshuffling from patrol to focus on the gun violence and reduction of it, and essentially enhancing communication with those units. So That is going, we have 11 promotions next week, 3 new captains, 4 new lieutenants, 4 new sergeants. So it's going to be a whole lot of changes here. And then all those changes structurally will happen on November 1st.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions for Josh before I send it back to Shakira? All right, Shakira.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe, are you giving the working group updates, or is that something that we're putting together for a later date?
We need to hear from everybody from each working group that's here today. I think it would be beneficial for us to hear what each group is working on so that we have an update. And for everyone, our plan is we've been working hard on adding SMART goals and action steps to our recommendations that were presented to council. Our plan is to give an update to council probably at the November 16th meeting. So it's really critical that each working group finalize your action steps so that we can bring those in together and be able to present an update to council on November 16th. So today is an opportunity for each working group to check in, to share what you're currently working on. And then following that, if there are, I know one of our working groups is not here with us today, that's the marketing and communications. Several of our working groups will go ahead and meet in breakout sessions to continue that work. But we'll confirm which groups are going to actually meet today and which groups will meet at another time. So I think now if we can start, Shakira, with the Safer Neighborhoods group and get a report from them and then just work down through the groups.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Nicole Ross. I'm going to be giving a little bit of a report, and I'll let Tim, just so you guys will be aware, Pastor Tim Harvey is going to be co-chairing Safer Neighborhoods with me in Natasha's absence, so that we can have at least one of us always present. Also, well, just a jump in, we were fortunate enough to trying to get my computer to where I'm looking at the same place as my screen. Sorry. We were fortunate enough to be able to record our book, A Little Blue Truck, I think it's called. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. We were able to get that recorded. New Focus Media recorded the Safer Neighborhoods group. We had about 6 of us that showed up, and we all read. We had Officer Johnson, Chief Schulbeck, and a few others of us came out, and we actually were able to record that book. It was a wonderful opportunity. I'm still looking forward to seeing the end result on that. Unfortunately, I have not gotten that footage back from Mr. Page. I sent him a message after I talked with you this week, Joe, just to verify if we could have it. I was hoping to have it to show today. Unfortunately, it's not quite ready, but I will give an update on the date that will be available. That project was one of our initiatives and one of our recommendations to, initially we were going to go into the classrooms and talk to the kindergarten of all of Roanoke City Public Schools. The book is about caring, working together, being available for one another, and even though you're different. So the book really has a lot of great components that we can teach. Our hope was that if we start teaching these young people now about caring and building relationship with one another, then we could prayerfully stop some of the gun violence as they age, as they grow. So that was the point of that. Due to COVID, we had to kind of pivot, and instead of going into the classroom and reading, we did record it, and it will be posted on YouTube once we get everything approved with Justin McLeod. we're approved to go in. We just need to let him view it and make sure we don't need to make any changes. Once that happens, it will actually roll out not only to the kindergartners, but K-3 will be able to show this as part of their classroom with their virtual learning. So we're very proud of that project that has actually happened. The other project that we are working up that's coming quickly is we have our, excuse me, our Christmas event. Typically in the past, we have gone bridging the community gap and we have met, done caroling and things like that, and had a pledge with Vice Mayor and the Mayor to, you know, make a vow not to have any gun violence. Well, due to COVID, we're pivoting again. And we came up with, our group came up with the idea to pre-record the singing because we don't want to break any rules, you know, to get together and, you know, make sure that we can socially distance. And we just didn't see how we could safely do that caroling. So we decided to video record that. New Focus has agreed. I did speak with him. One of my homework assignments, Tim gives us homework, by the way. I want y'all to know, Tim gives us homework in our session. I don't know if y'all get homework. We get homework every session, but I did my homework and we do have, Mr. Page is going to record it. He agreed to do that for us. So we just have to get some dates teamed together. And I think that was all that we had secured. Tim, you want to jump in? Am I missing anything? You're almost on. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. No, I think that was good. I really feel like we are welcoming Hannah Oakes from TAP.
Wonderful.
As a community member today, but we hope as a full member of the task force pending approval from the Roanoke City Council, which will be forthcoming without difficulty. And that project really feels like to me that we are at that point where a little bit of work is going to yield a lot of results, as sometimes projects do. And so I feel like the next few weeks, a lot of that will really take shape. Aiming for Thursday, December the 10th, probably around 6 o'clock, starting at the MLK statue, coming across the bridge, turning left down to the Roanoke Christmas tree.
The other project was our wall that we have not quite, the initial was a, when I die, before I die. We did not like that. We wanted to change it to something a little bit more positive, but we're firming that up and we're going to be rolling out more information. We don't really have it, enough of it to roll out today, but I just wanted to keep you and put that on your, in your minds. That's something that we're working on. That project will go from community to community. We're just trying to figure out exactly what that's going to look like. I'm sure Chief has his homework done that he was given, and he will talk about that in our group today. So we will be rolling that information out at our next meeting. And that's all I have, Joe.
Nicole, is that my understanding that it's a collaborative project with the Roanoke Arts Commission and a public art project?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, I believe Karen Pillis is going to report out for the education working group.
We have met since our last big meeting. We met and we are in the process of vetting curricula, social emotional learning curricula, with the thought that we possibly could do like a continuum of programming, starting with the little blue truck kind of thing with the little ones. And so curriculum that would maybe work in the schools and in the community with kids and with families. So a range of curriculum. So Tasha has been busy, as you all can, appreciate, with schools in the middle of the word today is pivot, of their big pivot. And so she is going to be getting us, everybody sending their suggested curriculum to her, and then she's going to send it out to us for us to vet. We are going to be meeting again as a work group in the next week or two to make some decisions for recommendations back to the big group.
Thank you, Karen. Antoine Calloway is going to report for the Gang Violence and Recidivism Reduction Group.
Good morning, everyone. As Vice Mayor stated, I'm Antoine Calloway. I am co-chair with Rabbi Kathy Cohen for the Gang Violence and Recidivism Reduction Group work group. Recently, we've had a speaker from Danville who came in, Robert David, and he may have actually done a presentation for the entire committee and everyone involved. And Mr. David is a youth gang prevention coordinator from out of the city of Danville, and he discussed some of the implementation and the process of the work that they're doing there in Danville. So what we began is to request a possible work description of the work that Mr. David is doing there in Danville. Also looking to the possibility of whether or not in this locality in Roanoke, in the city of Roanoke, such a position could be available to work with the youth and to work with different individuals in the community as it revolves around, as it involves gangs. Also, after the conversation with Mr. David, we had some discussion concerning possibly looking into a consultant group that had worked with Danville and putting together their implementation plan that they use around gang prevention and gang violence. So we're in the process of, Vice Mayor is in the process of contacting some of those individuals to see whether or not we can have a discussion with them going forward. Luckily, Jim O'Hare, who has been attending since the beginning and part of the actual committee, provided some information on the National Gang Center. So we're in the process of reading that information and looking at different possible funding sources, and also looking at different models that are going to be used or that could possibly be replicated here in the Roanoke Valley area. We've provided different fact sheets and other information that goes along with juvenile justice, recidivism, and reentry to all of our members and individuals that have been attending the committee groups. And we're looking to move forward with having more discussions with Danville and other localities as well on what direction we need to go as far as implementing some kind of gang violence prevention here in the Roanoke area. Vice Mayor, you have anything else to add to that?
I think that was really thorough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And the next group is City Services and Rapid Response. And Shakira, do you want to report out on that?
Yes, sorry, and I had to join on my phone, just having some internet connection issues. And so our group has been working on developing our rapid response, which really would be a quick response to any incidences of violence in the city. And some of the main things that we plan on offering are immediate support services, follow-up support services, prevention of escalated conflicts, therapy, counseling, and grief services, family support services, which would be care for family members, respite providers for children, social workers, emergency funding resources, safety planning resources, and what happens next. And we have gone under each of these categories and kind of outlined some of the existing services in the area that we know for sure that we can put their information down. We are also strategizing and organizing which parts of this should come first and come before other parts, such as safety planning resources. We've got protection from harm, and some other emergency assistance. And another thing that we discussed last week, we have somebody from Carillion Trauma Survivors Network. And we did discuss starting a peer visitor trauma support specifically for people who have been injured through gun violence. And one last thing that we're working on with our group to kind of add to these support services are a homicide support group. And I am in contact with somebody who coordinates the homicide support groups. That currently there's one and the spots are extremely limited. I have shared this information with Fed Up in case, they would like to go and kind of test it out to see if there's a way that we can get a homicide support group started up here, because they do have a curriculum, and we definitely think that it would be beneficial. And everything that we're doing is being put into a presentation format or a booklet. And so it'll be more instructional. And we are doing it piece by piece. So smaller one-pagers and smaller fact sheets that can be handed out. And that will kind of build up into the full product of what the rapid response would look like.
Thank you, Shakira. We don't have an update today from marketing and communications. So as soon as we have an update from them, we'll share that with the study committee and working groups. So at this time, just looking back at our agenda, I think we can move into our breakout rooms. Let me ask this of the working groups. Are there any working groups that have reported out today that are not planning on meeting today?
I'm not sure what education would do.
Okay.
Since Tasha's not here and we're still waiting on our, we're still in the process of vetting curricula.
Okay. Well, the gang violence reduction group I know is going to meet today. Shakira, is your group going to meet?
Yes.
Okay. How about Safer Neighborhoods? Are you all wanting to meet today?
Yeah, we need to touch base. I don't anticipate a lengthy meeting, but.
Okay, so let me ask of the folks who are on education, I will just let you, I'm not sure how many we've got in the education group here. Let me look real quick. I've got David, Karen, Katie, Kayla, Maynard, and Tanya. You all are welcome. I can assign you to one of the other working groups if you'd like to stay on the call, just so you can hear what's happening in one of the other groups. Just let me know in the chat box which group you'd like to be assigned to, and I can do that. And we'll take care of that, and then we'll shift into the working groups. And we're going to keep the gang violence reduction one in this room. I'm just going back through to assign some others that came in later. So my apologies. Right, I'm going to add several of you to Safer Neighborhoods from the education group.
We'll be glad to have you.
Watch what you wish for, Tim Harvey.
Okay. right, so I think we're set. Let me just double check here. If media have if any of the media that are on the call today have a preference on which group you want to go into, we're going to have 3 groups meeting today: Safer Neighborhoods, Gang Reduction, and City Services and Rapid Response. And those of you who need to leave, just go ahead and exit, and we appreciate your time today. All right, here we go. So everyone who's still in the main room should be with reducing gang violence. Okay, Bishop Jackson, I believe I assigned you to City Services. Let me make sure. There we go. Okay. And Stephen Niamiche, you just need to accept the invitation. Did everyone on the on this working group receive the update that I sent out last night with our action steps? Do you have that in front of you, Antoine?
Yes, I do.
All right. Do you? I'll just turn it over to you and let you guide it, kind of guide us through. And it seems to me we've got a very ambitious a list of action steps here, and probably what we need to begin to do today is identify who among us is going to follow up on these particular things, and what kind of a timeline we want to put in place.
That is correct. Appreciate it. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And good morning to everyone that's in attendance. On behalf of Rabbi Kathy Cohen, I am Antoine Callaway. So let's take a moment, and if possible, Joe, I may actually possibly share my screen with that document. Is that?
It is. Let me do multiple share here. All right, you should be able to do it now.
There we go. Can everybody see that just fine? Enlarge that just a little bit so everybody might be able to see it as best as possible. Hopefully everyone got a chance to at least review the document.
So I'm now in recidivism group.
Yeah, I'm going to get you
I'm just
transferred.
waiting for Joe to put me.
Shakira, we can hear you.
Hold on, Shakira. You should be in City Services.
No, she's with us. I see her picture.
Yes, I'm working on it. Hold on a second.
Okay. Well, I can continue on. I mean, even though Shakira is with us, Shakira has the opportunity to, I guess, switch in between from our group to any group that she'd like to be in the chair. So that kind of works out as well. Once again, I hope everybody did have an opportunity to see the document, the email that Joe shared yesterday. It does have a lot of information, and Nicole Ross said it best while she was speaking about her working group, is that we may have some homework to do based on all of the fact sheets and all of the other information that Vice Mayor sent yesterday. So just looking at our recommendation steps, in the past, we came up with about 7 different recommendations. And throughout the last 6 months or so, we've been working effortlessly to try and prepare what some of the action steps can be towards accomplishing the goals of those next steps. So right here present, and thank you for Vice Mayor for putting this document together. Right here, he has been generous enough to put on here the actual action steps that we need to take going forward. So one of the things that we want to do is just kind of look into who can actually do those action steps, how can they be complete, what are the completion date, and then coming around with what the status and the outcome is on some of this so we can see that we're actually moving forward. The first recommendation that we do have is to encourage greater collaboration between the task force, Roanoke Police Department, and community partners to increase community education and awareness on location, structure, and activities of city gang violence. I think we've kind of moved on some of these, so so we can kind of go through this and just see which ones we've already began the process of moving on, and then documenting and then going forward. Step one is identifying and invite representation from the Roanoke City Police Department with expertise on gangs violence. We do have Officer Josh Johnson who's on, and a lot of the information is being disseminated to Vice Mayor. I'm not quite sure how much he will continue to remain on this actual committee group right here. But for now, he's receiving a lot of that information and that data. And if he does have to move over to another group, then what we'll do is we'll give that responsibility to either myself or Rabbi Kathy Cohen in order to do those updates if he needs to continue working with another group.
Antoine?
Yes.
Just one thing to add here. I think as the police department is restructuring to do more focused work on their gang activity reduction, there may be someone within that team other than Officer Johnson who may work directly with this working group. So as I hear from from Chief Roman on that, I'll be glad to share that information with you.
That's great. So what we'll do is, and because they are restructuring, I think that would be a great opportunity to discuss with the new either captain or sergeant that will be over that special, I think it's special investigations group, and seeing how we can work with them concerning this. Now, do you mind if I actually try to edit the document at this time, or should I just do that as we continue in the future?
That's fine. If you want to go ahead, good luck.
Yeah, that probably will not be successful because my typing speed is trash. So we'll move past that.
I'm taking notes for you, so we can compare notes and update this and send it out to everybody.
All right. So it seems like we'll work towards that, and that should be an easy, because we already have that relationship, that should be an easy process. Identify 3 comparable localities with successful gang prevention and reduction models. We've identified Danville as one of those localities that is similar in doing the work. We also have some documents that Jim has provided us. Thank you, Jim O'Hare, and some other resources that have been provided by the committee group. So it's just continue to identify. Did anyone have any ones that were identified? Or, well, we're just making sure that we can, the process is we just got 2 more that need to be identified, to the best of my knowledge. So if we identify 2 more localities, and that will work, I can take that process on and identify, or if individuals here on the committee can provide any kind of feedback on those on localities that they find, please do, and send that, in an email to either myself, Rabbi Kathy, or either Vice Mayor.
Can I make a suggestion to might be helpful, Antoine?
Okay.
Roanoke City, Richmond City received a grant several years ago to do a model gang program. So they may be somebody to be in touch with in Richmond. And I think I shared something with you about Albany, New York as well, that is comparable city size, and they've had similar types of problems. They have a successful stop violence program that has a component for gangs as well. So that might be a place to start anyway.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Yeah, I think that does provide us an opportunity for us to look deeper into both of those other localities and just to move forward versus slowing it down, slowing down the process. Identify persons in the community who have emerged from gangs and are working to mentor youth into multiple positive pathways and belongings and to success. We've identified some individuals, maybe one or two, but I think this still needs a great deal of work. There are some organizations that are out there right now currently providing some level of mentorship and providing, some level of assistance to youth, but I'm not quite sure if we necessarily have identified those that are specifically working with younger individuals that may be actively in gangs or encouraging them not to be actively involved in gangs. So
Antoine,
yes.
One of the things here is, I think this was focused not only on existing mentoring groups who may have some intersection with youth who are experiencing the pressure to join a gang or already in one, but individuals like the gentleman that you brought on, Mr. English.
Yes.
Folks like that who, and I'm aware of some others in the community. Man Page is someone who I've talked to previously. And my sense is that folks like these are already doing some of this work. And to the degree that we can get them to the table and work together, I think that could be helpful.
So it seems like, yeah, we have identified a few. I guess those that will be responsible for continuing to move forward on this process, I guess, if there's anyone that would like to participate in helping out with that, have any ideas of anybody else, please send the information forward. But we do have Mr. English, and as Vice Mayor stated, we do have Man Page and Mr. English, and I think it's maybe even contacting them and having a discussion with them to see whether or not they have any other individuals in the community that they may refer, or be able to refer to us concerning that. If possible, I could actually, either myself or Vice Mayor, we can work together to contact these individuals and compile that list so we can bring that list to the committee. I can work on that personally. To create and train the mentoring team of these individuals and build relationships. I think 4 and 5 kind of go hand in hand. Actually, 3, 4, and 5 actually go hand in hand with our idea or some of the conversations that we had on possibly looking into hiring or the discussions of hiring a youth and gang prevention coordinator. So I think all of this kind of works hand in hand, and actually the possibility of identifying individuals in the community that may be qualified for such a position, and even trying to find ways that we can engage these individuals to be trained more and do more training as far as becoming mentors, maybe even some training with some other committees that we have that's dealing with mental health and resilience of these individuals, these young individuals. So I think, we've already begun the process of identifying that. And as far as the hire of a youth gang prevention and, coordinator, how would that process go, Vice Mayor? How do you see that process going?
So I shared with you all a job description that we received from Mr. David in the city of Danville, and also a salary range. I've also shared this with our city manager, Bob Cowell. And based on our conversations as a working group and with Bob, we agree that having this person be a city employee is really important. That it's someone outside of the police department so that we can focus on the community engagement aspect of this. I think what we need to be prepared to do, because the salary range, we have to determine what that's going to be. With our full committee budget at $75,000, if we if we want to recommend that we move quickly on hiring someone for this type of a position, that's going to be the bulk of the study committee's budget. I know that I've had, well, Tasha Steele with Roanoke City Schools, she reached out and said, you know, offered her support for this kind of a position, because I think the intersection with the schools could be really critical too. But what we need to do is as part of this, come up with a specific recommendation and all the components of that to recommend and get the sign off from the city manager and the committee. And I think if we can do that for our November 13th meeting and then get the committee's support for that, then we'll be able to move relatively quickly.
Sounds great. In the process of putting that recommendation together, yes, it's we have our we'll be also having another possibly meeting again before the actual full committee meeting next time, correct, Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be fine. And I guess somewhere in between now and then we'll need to identify or put a group of individuals together that may want to help in, you know, finalizing those recommendations and making sure that as we come together with the full group that we can look at it and then move forward to presenting that to the entire committee. Moving forward, action step recommendation 2, affirm the efforts of the Roanoke Care Initiative and request that 2 members of the task force be appointed to serve. Determine the status of the Care Initiative to identify 2 members. Vice Mayor, what is, I mean, we've had this discussion before in the past about the Roanoke Care Initiative, but is there really truly an opportunity for committee members or members of this group to participate in that, or how does that actually work?
Well, my understanding from Dan Bubar with the attorney's office is that this was more of an informal initiative. It wasn't a specific working group that meets on a regular basis, but it's comprised of the attorney's office, the police department, ATF, Roanoke City Schools, in an effort to address these issues in a collaborative way. And so there's no like formal organization to it other than occasional meetings that are held. I think the key here is maybe to shift the action step to receiving regular updates from the U.S. Attorney's Office on the work of the CARE Initiative as it relates to our working group. Something like that. And that's something we could confirm with Dan Bubar. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
So Vice Mayor, you're saying that this is an initiative that's very informal, kind of not structured, and I mean, so what? I guess again, and forgive me for my lack of.
Oh, you're fine.
So what's the objective? I mean, why is it? Why do they exist if there's no formal structure around it with deliverables and, you know, expectations and such?
So this was announced a year ago, and it was done so in response to some of the gang activity they were seeing in Roanoke City Schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Dan gave us an update a couple months ago, he just conveyed that they don't meet on a regular basis, from my understanding, and that this was an effort to promote education, to reduce gang activity, an educational model that the U.S. Attorney's Office has used historically with ATF. I know that he was going to check on how that is utilized in the schools and what role we might be able to play as a task force in intersecting with that and being a part of either the training component of that or the leadership of it. And I haven't gotten a report back from him yet on that. It may be that we need further clarification on what this initiative is, if it is truly active, if it's an ongoing initiative, and then the importance of us being a part of it.
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly on the and again I think and I'm speaking personally, I think it's again more symbolism than substance.
Right. So I will take the initiative to follow up with Mr. Bubar on finding out exactly what the ongoing work of this initiative is and the importance of us having a part in that.
That's great. Yeah, and I think it could be that it's just more, it sounds from my perspective that it may just be more informational at periods and times of them just providing us information concerning, the current trends and the current climate of gang violence and various information related to that in the area. But if there's any opportunity for us to participate going forward, and us being as a committee being notified of when opportunities to participate and to be able, at least at the table or in the room when discussions are happening, that'd be great. Moving on to action step recommendation number 3, identify transformative best practices on reducing gang violence and sending key members to the task force to committee observance of municipalities. Action step 1 is to study violence prevention models already successful in the localities. Vice Mayor has already sent that information out. Jim O'Hare has been nice enough to send the information out. Other individuals have sent information out as well concerning various violence prevention models. I hope everyone has been taking the time to read over them. If not, then we need to continue to look at that information. And so I think we're consistently studying this and continuously educating ourselves on the different models that apply. Doing a more comprehensive, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Antoine, if you all are interested in this, I can give you a brief summary of what the consulting group is doing in conjunction with Danville in terms of the comprehensive gang violence reduction model. Would you like to hear that?
I know I would.
Okay. So this is from Raquel Del Campo Gatewood, who is with River District Consulting, and they were hired by Danville. So I'm just going to share with you an email that she sent me, and then I'll subsequently send this out to you all so that you'll have it for your records. River District Consulting Group was contracted by Danville's Youth Task Force in 2018-19 to develop an early adolescent prevention and intervention program suitable to be used as a pilot program in the city. During program development, we conducted listening sessions, focus groups, and surveys with stakeholders comprised of community leaders and individuals, youth and adult, who live and or work in neighborhoods disproportionately impacted by youth violence in the city of Danville. Our assessment also included an analysis of local data, health, equity, crime data, risk factor data, as well as national resources such as OJJDP and CDC, and research of like communities. When we were contracted, Robert David had recently come on board with the city in his job as Youth and Gang Violence Prevention Coordinator. Naturally, our work overlapped, and we quickly became a team working collaboratively to address the issues. Since the completion of that contract in 2019, RDCG has attended OJJDP comprehensive gang model training, and we have continued to work with Robert and the city on implementing various components of the program. RDCG wrote a $700,000 grant, which is pending, to implement the pilot program called a community-based youth initiative to address the prevention and intervention of youth and gang violence in the city. Building on the tenets of OJJDP and the National Gang Center's comprehensive gang model, and in coordination with the work of Danville Regional Foundation's Opportunity Neighborhood Plan, the city will implement a 3-year pilot program focused on the Southside Opportunity neighborhood, the neighborhood anchored by Danville Community College and Danville Redevelopment and Housing Authority's Cardinal Village. The city of Danville also recognizes the need for a framework structure to provide cross-sector collaboration in an effort to make large-scale social change, a collective impact initiative. With that goal in mind, following the completion of the Youth Violence Prevention and Intervention Pilot Program, the city asked us to use the community data already compiled to analyze and assess the current inventory of assets, research like models for implementation, and identify potential lead champions already operating within the community, well positioned to take on this important work. This Human Services Coalition work continues today, but due to the interruption caused by the pandemic, we are still in the beginning stages. It would be difficult to provide an estimate of consulting fees for the City of Roanoke project without first meeting with you to discuss where you are in the process and what your needs are. Based on what we know so far, we suspect, like most projects, your first step will be data gathering, research, and analysis, identifying your core group of decision makers and policy changers, conducting community engagement listening sessions with stakeholders, researching similar communities and evidence-based best practices, resulted in a recommended community strategy to move forward. Simultaneously, RDCG and Robert David would provide comprehensive gang model prevention and intervention training to your core group and other identified stakeholders. So that's an overview of the work they've done in Danville. I think that Raquel, gives some important added dimensions to this, that as we build this out, that we want to keep in mind. Identifying a core group of decision makers and policy changers, community engagement listening sessions. That's something we haven't included in our action steps, but I think it's a critical component that whether we decide to host those or whether we do that kind of alongside hiring someone or working with a consulting group. We'll have to make those decisions in coordination with the city. But that's an overview, and I will email that out to all of you so you'll have that. Is that how?
I would say in listening to that overview, some of that work we're already in the process of doing.
Yes.
So it's a lot of it is, identifying best practice models, identifying localities that are similar to our current locality, collecting the data that we need moving forward. So, it sounds like we're moving in the right direction, without the help of a consultant group, just by the individuals that we have working together collectively and collaborating with each other. So I think there's aspects of the work that they're doing that we could possibly consult with them to do, but a lot of the implementation, a lot of the foundational work, which sounds like we're currently doing.
I think Antoine, I think you're right in that respect. But just as a broad overview of some of the data that's presented, there's a lot of where, but when it comes to resolving issues, there's not a lot of meat around the why something happened. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think you can get to true root cause until you understand why something is going on. So in this aspect, and I would be very interested in seeing what they've done, the full data for Danville, because I don't think they've done a lot. I think she said the pandemic is more preventing them from getting down deep. But that's what I would want to know from a consultant perspective is how do we get to that next layer of the data that we do have, a little bit more granular to be able to drive some more effective change.
Would you all like for me to see if they could be available to join us just as a working group meeting, maybe in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think that'll be good because you can then ask the questions of how you're going to go about doing it. You know, my times with a lot of consultants, they can leave you, with some very rephrased, here's the obvious things that are there. And as Antoine said, we kind of got that. I would want to know a little bit deeper as to, so how are you going to help me solve this problem for the expenditures that I'm utilizing to bring you on board.
Right. Okay. I'll reach out to them and set that up for October 23rd.
That sounds great. That sounds great. So it seems like for recommendation 3, action step 1, that's the ongoing process that we're doing and we're continuing to do. And then as far as the comprehensive gang, developing a logic model, I think, contacting the consultant and then continuing to move forward in the direction that we're already in is actually really starting to weed out and bring about the process of us identifying a model. So even without the consultant being at the table currently at this present point in time, we're almost in the process of identifying the model that we need to use and then figuring out how to go from there. So I think that's more like an ongoing process of the committee as well. On recommendation 4, because I know our time is running short and I don't want Vice Mayor to have any issues with me. On recommendation 4, to work with the Roanoke City Jail to improve access to programs, education, counseling, and spiritual guidance to improve the odds of reducing recidivism. At one time, I think for one of our meetings, we had an individual with the city jail that came and had provided us a summary of information. And it was not in documentation form. It wasn't written or anything of that manner. I don't know if we've had any direct contact with the jail or the city jail, Roanoke City Jail since then. And so Vice Mayor, do you have any ideas of how that's going? And if not, I'm more than willing to contact them to see what we can begin, how we can begin to start this process as needed.
I was going to suggest, Antoine, if you want to reach out, Sheriff Allen is still there. He's retiring in January. Reach out to Sheriff Allen and see if he or Deputy Bell would be willing to give us an update on their programming. I know that they have Council Member Bestfitch and I met with them, and they have a pretty thorough document on current programming they have and the effectiveness of that and what their challenges are, frankly, in enhancing their programming. So I think if you reached out to the sheriff and Deputy Bell and maybe have them join us as well on the 23rd so that we could get an update from them on what's currently in place. And I think that'd be helpful.
Sounds great. I'll contact them in the next coming days and see what we can do to at least gather and collect that information and then move forward with having them attend our meeting and going from there. Recommendation 5. Let's see what we can do. Here we go. Recommendation 5 is to work with the city jail once again to ensure that returning citizens upon exit have direct access and employment opportunities and housing and other resources. Determine if there is a coordinated comprehensive plan for offenders. I think, and then to create an education program for employers of the city of Roanoke regarding benefits on offering second chance. I think with this first one, I can action step 5. I think I can present this question possibly. I can probably present this to the sheriff's department when I get in contact with them about what some of their whether or not they have a comprehensive plan and what that looks like, unless you have some feedback on that, Vice Mayor, or anyone else.
I just wanted to say that Ann typed in the chat box. Ann, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to extend your offer.
Sheriff Allen has held a position on our board for about the last 4 years, 5 years, maybe longer. And so, of course, once we heard he was resigning, what we've done is David Bell is going to hold the seat now. The meetings are usually attended by Angela Trainum from the sheriff's office. But if you want me to, I can reach out to Sheriff Allen and to David Bell and talk to them about this. And I can double check on what TAP's Virginia Cares program is doing as far as what TAP's Virginia Cares program is doing as far as their coordination. I don't think right now they're directly in the jail because of the COVID situation, but I know a lot of our programs have initiated virtual, not virtual, but mail in and telephone communication with counselors in the systems to deal with people as they're coming out and to hook them up to the services they need, housing and that type of thing. So I can check on that for you for this recommendation number 5 about the returning citizens type of access to employment opportunities and all, whether or not we have anything formal set up with the jail. TAP may very well have an MOU with them that they're doing that. But if you want me to reach out to the sheriff, I can do that.
Yes, that sounds fine. Yeah, if you can reach out to them concerning recommendation 5 and action step, and that would be excellent. If you can give us an update on that, possibly when we have our next committee, individual committee, that would be great as far as any feedback concerning what you've heard and that
No
type
problem. Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Number 2, create the education program for employers. I think that discussion will be something that has to continue, I guess, with the city manager's office and other individuals in the HR department moving forward. Vice Mayor, what are your suggestions on that?
This is probably not worded the way it should have been. This gets to a point, a step that Elliot raised, which this is really to, it really should say, create an education program for regional employers. Just take out the city of Roanoke. The whole idea here, if I'm remembering right, Elliot, was to create an opportunity to educate regional employers about the value and benefit of hiring returning citizens and resources that are available to them in order to do so.
Yep. Perfect. That's it.
So maybe rewording this, and Elliot, is this something you can help take the lead on?
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely work on that and see what, just let me know who I'm working with and how you want to structure it, because, it definitely starts with people like Chamber of Commerce, SHRM, organizations, some of the leading organizations on employment, and the VEC as well, so.
And I think maybe even the possibility of contacting individuals that are within those organizations to see whether or not they would have someone that would be willing to participate in that conversation, and and helping to formulate that and creating, putting that together. That would be a nice aspect as well. Now, is this to be done currently now, or should we?
You don't have to wait for any.
Okay.
Yeah, these actions are mutually exclusive.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And then once we get the consulting, once we get some information concerning the consulting and how they're drilling down through the data, we may be able to identify some specific ways to target different individual employers and things like that after that. So, okay.
Antoine?
Yes.
Jim typed something in the chat box I want to share with you, or Jim's off the phone now. Jim, do you want to share this information you put in the chat box?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have to run as a matter of fact, but the SAMHSA has a webinar on October 29th. I sent an email to you and Antoine and Ann and Kathy this morning just to show you. It's just about creating employment programs for people who are returning to the community after incarceration. It might be interesting and something to keep in mind. If you're not able to reach it in some way through the email or to share it in some way, let me know and I'll find another way to send it to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And what I'll do, Elliot, I'll send, if you don't mind, I can send out an email to individuals that have participated, or we can find a way to send out an email to individuals who have participated in this group and see if any of them want to assist in that and putting that together and as part of a smaller committee. Now, Vice Mayor, would that cause any issues for them to do such a thing in a smaller, as a smaller committee or a smaller group putting that information together?
No, that could be as long as they just report back to us, that's fine.
Okay, fine. Okay. So if you don't mind, Elliot, I'll send something like an email out later on today or either for, and see if anybody would like to participate in helping them putting that together, or if anybody on the call now would like to do so, then just get in contact with us and let us know as well.
Cool.
Recommendation 6, to propose a legislation dealing with child support reduction. Also, thank you. Yeah. There's a notice saying that we have 5 minutes left in the meeting. Proposed legislation for child support reduction during incarceration, and even looking at the General Assembly concerning incentive-based programming that could possibly help while individuals are incarcerated. I guess we have to review a summary of case law regarding child support and incarceration. Some information has been sent out in the past concerning a lot of this. Luckily, we do have individuals with the Division of Child Support Enforcement that has been participating on the calls. So we've been getting a lot of good information concerning this. I don't think Vice Mayor, have we received, go ahead.
Alice is on the call with us and she might have an update for us.
Yeah, I was going to see if Alice was available. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am here. There's not really any news to report other than what I've already sent out. And I don't know if everyone has seen that, but if not, I can send it to Antoine again and he can circulate it. This may take care of itself over the next year or so, but if there's anything in particular you want me to work on, just let me know. But there's a federal regulation that requires a change along these lines in Virginia law. So that should happen in the next year or two automatically.
Alice, is there any way to access data about how many people are impacted by this, locally or, well, I'm thinking particularly locally?
I'm sure the Division of Child Support Enforcement, who I represent, has some data. So let me ask them to see what they can pull. So what is it that we want to know? How many people are incarcerated that have a child support obligation?
I think that would be one thing.
Okay. And do you want to just know for the city of Roanoke or our area? I think they keep things probably by jurisdiction, but I'm not sure.
I think the city would be good, but I think the jurisdiction would be helpful too, because some of these programs are going to impact people who are in regional, who are incarcerated regionally, not necessarily in Roanoke City.
I agree.
Okay. And if I can drill down, do you want to find out what their child support obligation is on a monthly basis?
Yeah.
And what their arrears are that may be accruing on an average?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I will try to get that before our next meeting and send it around.
Thank you, Alice. We appreciate the work that you've been doing on this and providing
Sure.
us this
Thank you.
information.
Happy to help any way I can.
Thank you. Recommendation 7. I know we're probably down to our 2 minute and 30 second. So timer is clicking. So create an additional community navigator career positions for the first year to work with wraparound services. So the action step is basically to explore marketing opportunities around promoting and hiring offenders re-entering the workforce. A lot of discussion was behind that is that, as we know that a lot of times with working with specific populations and groups, individuals that may have what they consider as credibility or have walked that line or have lived that lifestyle or been a part of that in the past kind of works better with going back and being a mentor and going back into the community. So I think that kind of sparked a lot of conversation between community navigators and various looking into exploring, promoting ways to hire offenders coming back into the workforce to do this kind of work that we've been discussing and talking about. Vice Mayor, do you have anything to add concerning this or anyone else?
No, but I do. Ann, can you unmute and just share with us what you shared in the chat box?
It always takes me a minute to find my unmute. I just wanted to let everybody know that Virginia Cares is holding a virtual statewide staff training the week of November 9th through the 13th. Now, we won't be training on Wednesday, the 11th, because that is a holiday. But one of the things we've already scheduled Robert David to come in and give us a 2-hour gang intervention workshop on the 13th, Friday the 13th from 9 to 11. We're going to, once we get everything up and running, we'll have it online where people can actually register for the different workshops. In other words, you don't have to do all of the entire training that we're doing, some of it being more related to our staff, but we'll have it where people can register. So, and then we're working with an individual that is known by one of our staff personally. He's a former gang member. Right now he's in the Lynchburg area, but we were working with trying to get him in to follow Robert David and talk with us a little bit, give him about an hour to talk to us. So I'll let you know the progress on getting that all put together. A couple of the other workshops we'll be having is diversity. Deneen Evans is going to, I did get in touch with her. She got back to me very late last night. So Deneen Evans is going to be doing a 2-hour workshop on diversity. And then we also have a 2-hour workshop on implicit bias that will be conducted by Patrina Carter, who is the executive director of Tri-Counties Community Action Agency down outside of Danville. So just to let you know a few things. And like I said, I'll get the schedule out to everybody once we've got it finalized.
So I'm wondering if the particular training that is being provided that Virginia Cares is currently working on providing, I wonder if we were to actually identify, as we had said in one of our recommendations, the individuals like Man Page and also Mr. English, if we were to have them possibly, be a part of some of that, especially the conversations that Mr. David is having, and also the conversations concerning gang violence and things of that nature, if it might be, good to, identify those individuals and then also have them possibly participate and be a part of collecting that information or getting that information.
I think that would be really helpful to us. Like I said, we haven't got anybody who is, on to come in and actually do it yet. We're just working with them. So, if we can develop a couple more people and maybe have 2 or 3 like a panel, that would be very, very good.
Great. So I think we're probably running down to and what I'll do is, Ms. Fisher, I'll be in contact with you, Ann.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Yes. It has been a while. It has been a while.
Well,
so I'll be in contact with you and maybe we can have that discussion. And for right now, thank everybody for being on in this meeting and part of this group, committee group. Appreciate the work that everyone has been doing. And I'll be in contact myself, Rabbi Kathy or Vice Mayor, concerning some of the recommendations we have, if there's any kind of follow-up, and then Vice Mayor, you can take it away from there. Everybody have a nice weekend.
Thank you all. First of all, I want to welcome Greg Hopkins. Greg, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm appreciative to be a part of the just sitting back and observing, but it seems like a lot of work has been going on in Roanoke, especially in Danville. Our agency, as you know, has been working tasked with dealing with addressing some issues around the state when it comes to gun violence. And we're working on a couple of initiatives now that we want to try to get out as soon as possible. The information that you guys have done, that I've received today from just observing the meeting, sort of complements the work that we're doing. So look forward to hearing something soon from us. And we may need your help to help, guide some other partners around the state to help them formalize a plan as well. Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. And if you can put your email in the chat box, I'll make sure to just continue to include you in all of our meeting notices. Anne Marie, and I know a couple of you were in the rapid response group. Would you like to just report back briefly on things you discussed today before we adjourn?
Sure. Is Shakira not on here?
She had to leave to go to another meeting.
Okay. One of the issues that we kind of got in depth about is the issue of having a safe place for victims of violence to go to when if they've been in the hospital and then are discharged, as opposed to going back into the neighborhood where they were probably hurt, and where from what we're hearing, these are interpersonal relationships, not random acts. And so instead of putting them back there, what would be the options for having those victims go somewhere else? And we talked a little bit about the model that the TAP uses for domestic violence, and whether there might be some way to partner with them in the future to figure, what kinds of options there would be. I do know that TAP tends to use hotels. Certainly during COVID, they're using hotels for their domestic violence victims. So I don't know if that would be an option, but in any event, Stacy Shepard couldn't be with us today. So Shakira is going to pursue that with Stacy and see if there's some way that we could partner with them to help people not have to go right back into where they were hurt before.
Great. And Arwen, we really appreciate your being present with us from Carilion and the work that you're doing regarding trauma. And I, in conversation with Shakira, understand that you're trying to develop some supportive groups for people who've experienced trauma. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that might intersect with the work we're doing?
Yeah, so I already have a trauma survivors network through Carilion, where I had just gotten it going when COVID started. So, it has we have lots of services offered. There are online support groups, which are still offered. Peer support, where a victim of trauma becomes a peer visitor and goes into the hospital and visits other trauma patients. I only have one peer visitor right now because I had just started the program, but ideally we would have, amputees visit amputees, spinal cord injuries visit spinal cord injuries, gunshot victims visit gunshot victims, that type of thing. I don't have anybody from gun violence in that role as of yet. So what Shakira and I have been talking about is maybe starting a virtual support group for victims of gun violence, in order to provide obviously a support group, and also to maybe identify individuals that might be good candidates for peer visitation, to visit gunshot victims in the hospital. That person has to be pretty well vetted because we can't have, for obvious reasons. So we're going to try to work on this virtual support group right now, which can be offered during COVID, as we're not having visitation in the hospital. and possibly be able to find somebody that would fit that role.
Great. Thank you, Arwen. We appreciate
You're welcome.
that. Well, thank you all so much. We've gotten a lot done today. Just a reminder that we'll continue to build out the action steps for our recommendations. I know the Gang Violence Reduction Working Group is going to meet again on October 23rd. I'll follow up with the other working groups to see what their plans are. And then our next study committee meeting and everyone meeting together will be Friday, I believe it's November 13th. So please put that on your calendar and we'll send out updates in between time. Thank you all so much for being here today and have a good weekend.